I'm here in Kiev at the monument to the Holodomor genocide. And I think I've mentioned the Holodomor in the past, but it was a self-imposed man-made famine that Stalin inflicted on the people of Ukraine in the early to mid-1930s. And by some estimates, some 7 million people died. We'll never know exactly the number, but they were starved to death on purpose. And, whether it is the tragedy of the Holodomor or the death toll that resulted from the Second World War, or indeed the thousands of dead and displaced in this current tragedy of this war, when you are talking about a mass casualty event such as this, oftentimes, sadly, the people who really get caught up in it and the people who pay the highest toll are the defenseless, the children. Now, I am filming this on June 1st, 2022, and throughout the former Soviet Union and many other nations, this day is observed as International Children's Day. So I thought it was only appropriate to take this moment in time and to talk about the toll and the cost the children of Ukraine are suffering in this current conflict. And thankfully, with modern technology being the way it is, I was able to conduct a couple of interviews with people around the country and indeed around the globe. And they were able to express to me their concerns about what's happening to the children here. So last week when I was back in Lviv, I had the good fortune to spend some time with Dr. Irwin Redlener. Dr. Redliner is a renowned physician in the United States and started his career in pediatrics at an ICU. He was in Lviv talking to doctors and others about how children are bearing the brunt of this tragic war. He did the same in Poland and returned back to the United States. So we could connect via Zoom, and he was kind enough to give me a little bit of his time to discuss this very topic.
Yeah, so this is a very serious war zone. This is not a skirmish. This is a full-fledged invasion of a superpower against a big country, but a very well-developed, beautiful country. And the Russians are going after this like with full destruction in mind, and no sparing of civilians or children. So this is a really, really difficult situation. And for me, and I've had a lot of experience with everything from, pediatric ICU care to child abuse and whatever in the US, to children living in severe poverty. But this is a big one, Phil. This is something that is going to affect children for the long haul. We're talking about millions of children, wonderful kids, that will have the potential of having their lives ruined and their futures undermined by this aggressive attack by Russia, which is still, I'm just a doctor, but for the life of me, I don't understand the rationale. I've read it. I understand some of the nuances, and I know you're very steeped in this and understand it. But for the average person, it's like, what the hell is why cause so much suffering? And it's a lot of suffering.
Do you get the impression that Russian soldiers and Russian forces are purposefully targeting children?
Right. Well, there's a lot of stories out there about everything from children being kidnapped and taken to Russia to being assaulted in a variety of ways directly, being shot directly as opposed to, just sort of caught up in the attack. Although the Russians, in attacking civilian neighborhoods, clearly understand that they're going after children and innocents in general.
Doctor, I wonder if you could outline both in terms of the immediate, but as well the long-term ramifications of what this war means to an entire generation of children.
The cost is enormous, and it's not just from the injuries. There are kids who are just traumatized psychologically, not physically, that's a problem long term, as is the second problem that my organization, the Ukraine Children's Action Project, is focused on, which is the educational disruption. So long-term psychological impact and disruption of education are the two developmental time bombs that will manifest later on. You get kids who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing academically, and so will be deprived of opportunities later in life, will potentially become liabilities, not assets in the population. And we're going to have another generation of children from Ukraine who are not being able to fulfill their inherent potential, which is kind of the secondary and tertiary consequences of this war that's affecting so many civilians. But it's probably a good point to say that nobody, child or adult, just has severe physical injuries without having mental health consequences due to the psychological trauma of the severe physical injuries. And these children are no exception. And if you can imagine the piling on of her physical injuries, which were very severe, with having watched her parents get killed, you're talking about a kid that needs the physical therapy and the surgery, but desperately also needs the mental health support and psychological first aid that is often critical in these cases.
So what can folks outside of Ukraine do to try and help?
You want to do something. You're living in America someplace, you're reading about this horror story over there in Ukraine. You start with examining that fact that, I know we got all kinds of problems. And I know there's a lot of things that preoccupy us, but don't let the preoccupation distract you from keeping an eye on what's happening in this particular horrendous hotspot in Ukraine. The second thing, let's say you have the ability to give something, to do something. Unless you're a hospital and you have spare heart monitors and, ultrasound machines, probably best not to send things. Don't send stuff. But if you want to contribute something, contribute money, whatever it is, it's first of all, it's helpful. And second of all, it actually provides the answer to what you can do to help the situation.
We understand that for children that are not in parental care and or in particular orphans, there's a real threat of illegal adoption on the territory of Russia. Since the start of the war, the investigators and national police started 193 criminal cases, in particular regarding crimes of Russian military against children. And according to those criminal cases, according to the data that national police has available, as the consequences of those crimes, 588 children suffered. Out of them, 162 children have died.
Щороку, 1 червня, ми відзначаємо День захисту дітей. Особливий день, коли дорослі приділяють спеціальну увагу питанням прав дітей, безпеки і розвитку наших діточок. Але від 24 лютого в нашій країні змінилося все. Росія проводить і послідовну злочинну політику депортації наших людей, силою вивозить і дорослих, і дітей. Це один з найбільш підлих російських воєнних злочинів. Загалом зараз вивезено більше 200 тисяч українських дітей. Це і сироти з дитячих будинків, і діти з батьками, і діти розлучені зі своїми родинами.
I first met Anastasia Dymtruk back in 2014 during the Maidan uprisings here in Kiev. She'd written a poem called "Mój Kagdan i Budyam Bratami," Roughly translated, that is, we will never be brothers again. It infuriated the Russians. Since that time, she's become a bit of a patriotic poet. She travels around the country spending time with the armed forces in a kind of a USO capacity, raising their morale, that sort of thing. But she's also just recently become a mother. And so she is concerned not only for the future of her child, but for the future of all Ukrainian children. She's put together a petition, and to go along with it, she made this video. Why did you decide to make the petition, Anastasia?
Feel because I can't do nothing. Every day I read a lot of news about new children who was raped by Russian soldiers or killed by Russian soldiers, and we can't do nothing and just wait when the war will finish. We must to do everything to stop this, and I hope. Of course, petition is not the most powerful thing what we could do, but with little steps, everyone could help us, and everyone could help stop this, and everyone should know about these crimes by Russian soldiers.
Запитай, чи можна тобі мандарин? Да, запитай, чи можна мандарин.
It is the most terrible, I think, because children didn't choose country, didn't choose politicals. They just was born, and they want to live in peace country with mom and dad. That's all what they need. And it's terrible that we couldn't give it for them now. I hope that after war we will we will give back childhood for these children. I hope we can do it, but I'm not sure that it is possible to to organize a normal childhood for these children. I think there are a lot of ways to help Ukrainian children, and people in the West should do everything what they can, because it could happen with their children. And Russia is a very big terrorist, and this terroristic acts which they do could happen in every city, I think. And yes, my son, yes, my chief editor, yes, my manager. I hope that people in the West will will do. I don't know, because they do a lot now, and they support Ukrainian children. They invite Ukrainian children for their homes, for their houses, for their families, and it's very good and it's very important. And I hope that they will continue this, that they will not tired from our war, and will not tired from our children. So I hope this little sign of my petition, it's not very hard work, but I hope it could help in the future.
So just closing this out, back here at the monument to the Holodomor, and this beautiful young child that exemplifies the suffering that Ukrainian children went through during the Holodomor. And you'll notice it's still poignant to the people of Ukraine. Somebody has laid a fresh wrapped wreath of grain here. It's always the kids that get me the most in a war zone. It's the most difficult thing to witness, whether it's their actual death or just the trauma that they undergo, because they don't deserve this. They don't deserve any of it. So I urge you to do what you can. I'll leave links to the Good Doctors Project or Anastasia's petition. I know that a lot of you will see this and you'll feel the same emotion that I feel about the suffering of the children here. But we can't just feel the suffering. We can't feel the sadness. We have to do something about it. So I hope you will. On this day of all days, we remember and think about the children. Slava Ukraini. Героям слава.